This is the McPherson Report. That's McPherson report.com.
For Governor of New Jersey, if she would come forward, give her a big hand.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. You know, I was born in Newark. My parents held me in their arms, not too far from here, St. Michael's Hospital. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, since a lot of you don't. I know some of you out there, but a lot of you don't know me. But, you know, before I get to that, as I was listening to Larry, it started me thinking about a few weeks ago when I went to Washington, D.C. to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, the March for Jobs and Freedom. Right? And I started thinking about that connection between jobs, economic freedom, right? And then I started thinking about, you know, the unemployment rate is twice that for African Americans as it is, it's bad enough, twice that for African Americans. And I started thinking about the fact that Trayvon Martin's murderer is still out there walking the streets, George Zimmerman. And then I had to pinch myself, and this is where I first met Larry, when we were talking about the United States Supreme Court case and how they essentially gutted the Voting Rights Act. And I had to pinch myself. You know, this is one of the singular accomplishments of the civil rights movement. And yet we have a governor who fails. He doesn't have an opinion on it. He was asked several times, and he said he didn't have a chance to read the opinion. He's very dismissive of it. I mean, this is someone who, in his own mind, would be president. And what is more important than having a position on an attack on our voting rights, assault on America? What's more important than that? And then I started thinking about Dr. King's dream, and started thinking about Langston Hughes and him. Remember the great poet Langston Hughes, and he said, "What happens to a dream deferred? How long will we defer Dr. King's dream, the dream that we celebrated a few weeks ago? How long, as Dr. King said, will it be before the rough places are made plain and the crooked made straight? How long? How long? We have corporations getting billions of dollars in tax credits, and yet this governor vetoed an increase in the minimum wage. Wow. He vetoed a bill that would have millionaires pay their fair share and fund middle class property tax relief, and yet he increased income taxes on the working poor. You know, that is not the dream fulfilled. You know, we have property taxes in Newark. They've gone up 50%. 50%. We have poverty that has risen every single year this governor has been in office. We have young men and women. You know, I used to be a public defender when I first started out as a young attorney. I represented the indigent in criminal matters in Middlesex County in New Brunswick. And I saw firsthand what prison does to people. And we have so many young men and women who, when they come out of prison, will never truly be free because they have a record. We know that. And that's not the dream fulfilled. We have schools. Well, first of all, Newark is under state control still after how many years? It was never intended to be that way. Newark needs to come out from under state control. This enforced dependency was never how it was supposed to be. The community has a right to have input and to decide how their children are educated. We have children that are in schools that are crumbling around them, and yet this governor is sitting on, $3 billion, over $3 billion in school construction funds. It should be used so that our children can learn in safe places. We have children. I've got 6 children, they're all grown, and I think of all the children who woke up this morning hungry, the thousands of children, and the thousands that will fall asleep tonight hungry. That's not the dream fulfilled. And, I started thinking about New Jersey and where we need to go. This governor and his far-right conservative Republicans that he hangs out with, they talk a lot about this class warfare. Well, I don't know about you, but I think there's been a war on the poor for the the last 4 years. A war on the poor and the middle class. And, you know, Dr. King's dream, we've made a lot of progress, but we've got some unfinished business, I think. And we need a governor who's a leader and not an opportunist. A governor who's a leader for all of New Jersey. And so when I think about Chris Christie and the differences between us, it boils down to a few simple things. You see, I'm the daughter of a union butcher. My father, like so many of ours, came from another country, didn't speak any English, but came here for opportunity. And I grew up in Nutley, born in Newark, raised in Nutley. My father wanted to be a doctor, but he had to sacrifice that because he had to drop out of high school to support his family, and he became a butcher. And my mom was an office worker, and we grew up in a cramped apartment in Nutley, where my parents slept on a fold-out couch in the living room, so my two sisters and I could have a bedroom. And we never had everything we wanted, but I never felt poor. I felt like I was happy, you know, and we had everything we needed. My parents taught me the importance of hard work, of self-discipline, of sacrifice, and of education, and how that combination wouldn't just open the doors of opportunity, but how they could transform a young person's life. And so when my father died, he was young, he was only 51. And I was 19, and my adolescence ended abruptly. My mom couldn't cope, and I was on my own. I was sleeping on friends' couches. But I got lucky. You know, my sister took me in to live with her, and I was able to make something of myself because I had a good public school in Nutley. And then I went to Montclair State because back then in the 70s, you know, I graduated high school in 71. I'm old. I don't know, we may be around the same age, Larry. And I went to Montclair State because it was affordable back then. And thank God I could afford it. I did it on my own. But you know what? I relied on the social safety net. I relied on my father's veterans benefits, his Social Security death benefits, which are no longer the law, and work study and tuition assistance. So don't tell me the social safety net drags people down. It lifts people up. It lifted me up. And when I graduated in 1975, there was another recession. And for those of you who are old enough to remember, there were gas lines around the block. And I couldn't get a job with the college degree, couldn't find a job, didn't have a place to live because there was a fire in the basement of my apartment building. And I was on food stamps for a while, and I will never forget the day that really was a defining moment in my life. I remember walking up those stairs in that apartment and picking up the phone in the burnt-out kitchen, because you know when there's a fire, that smell of smoke lingers, and calling the welfare office here in Newark, and the woman at the end of the conversation saying to me, "Are you sure you have no other source of income?" And I was only 22, but I was taken aback. That was pretty harsh. And I made a joke. I said, "Lady, I'm trying to forget about it." But I got lucky again. My family, my grandmother and my aunt took me to live with them back in Newark on Parker Street. And I lived there for about a year, was able to cobble some jobs together, and then I went to Rutgers Law School the next year. Why? How? A national defense student loan from the federal government. National defense, yep. That's the only way I did it. I came this close to not getting there. And I didn't even have to begin paying off the loan until I was at a law school for a year, 4 years. And then it was 3% interest. And then I had another loan from the Howard Savings Bank, which is no longer in existence. Right. Howard, you remember it. And I didn't even have the $500 to put in there you have to deposit it to qualify. I had to borrow it from a friend. But I was able to do it because I grew up in a New Jersey that invested in me, that wanted to see a kid like me succeed. You know, I never expected anything from anyone, but I knew that New Jersey was looking out for me. And I don't know about you, but I go up and down this state and I meet people from all walks of life, and I don't feel that there's that hope anymore, that opportunity that I had growing up. And so when people ask me why I'm running, it's very simple. You know, people initially, they would say to me, "Oh, Barbara, you're running against Chris Christie. That takes courage." And honestly, I didn't know what people were talking about. I mean, I still don't. And I say, you know, how could I not run? Look at the shape this state is in. How could I not run? And so, I have a great running mate. Some of you may have met Millie Silva. She's a very talented woman. She's a union leader. She represents low-wage, primarily women, primarily minority workers that are the private industry that work in nursing homes that earn some of the lowest wages. And Millie has fought on their behalf for 10 years as the vice president, negotiating contracts worth in the tens of millions of dollars. And you know what? As soon as I nominated her, Chris Christie comes out in a split second. He said, wholly unqualified. And I said, whoa, wait a second. This woman has done more for the working men and women of the state of New Jersey than you can ever hope to imagine. And talking about qualifications, do you seriously think that your record qualifies you for another 4 years in office with unemployment the highest in the region for the 4 years that he's been in office? So, I'm going to need your help, though. I've done a lot on my own in my life. I've been on my own since I was 19, and I pride myself in being able to pick myself up and at the edge of that fiscal abyss, man, and you don't even know. I know what it feels like to know if you're not going to have a place to sleep, put your head down, and where your next meal is going to come from. But I need your help. I can't do it alone. I need you. And so if you believe, and I know you do because you're here and you're part of this wonderful organization, if you believe that equality of opportunity isn't a privilege reserved for the few, but a right that should be afforded to everyone, then we will win in November and begin to restore the hope and opportunity that is in New Jersey that I know and love. And so I want to thank you for having me. No, I don't think so. Can we bring signs?
The senator will take a few questions. So, anyone have any questions? Yes, Dave.
Yeah. Well, one of New Jersey's main economic problems, of course, is the foreclosure test.
Yes.
Cumulatively, New Jersey homeowners, when you add up all the underwater mortgages, New Jersey homeowners are $13 billion underwater. We've never seen any effective program to assist homeowners out of the federal government. All those turn out to be bank bailouts at these times. And of course, we know that that Wall Street gets every last penny it ever asks for and then some. In fact, most people aren't even aware of the extent of it. But as governor, what measures would you take? What powers of government would you do? What kind of demands would you raise upon the financial system to bring some redress and some justice? And I mean, when we look at also, I didn't mention, but New Jersey has the second highest rate of mortgages in default of any state in the country. Only Florida.
And more than double the nation's rate, more than double.
Right. So, what measures would you take, and who's responsible for this mess? And what would you do about it?
Oh, that's a whole long discussion, who's responsible, because I can go there, but to address your question first, I think people should be able to live where they work. And this governor has no policy on affordable housing, as you know. He tried to eliminate the entity that supports affordable housing. Yes, exactly. What I would do, the court said he couldn't, by the way. What I would do is I would not sit on the $300 million that the federal government gave to New Jersey that was supposed to, and the $75 million that there was in a lawsuit settlement that was supposed to come to New Jersey to help people avoid foreclosure, to help people avoid from being put out on the street. This governor has just been eking out the money. I don't know what he's doing with it. I could tell you what he did with the $75 million. He took it and he plugged a hole in the budget. He used it for unintended purposes. So as governor, it's about priorities. And my priorities are to uplift the middle class, the working poor, who need help. People like you and me. And every one of you, I see a little bit of me. I know people sit at their kitchen tables at night as they watch the bills pile up and they wonder, how the heck am I going to pay that rent? How the heck am am I going to pay those property taxes? And so as a governor, my priority will be ensuring that people can stay in their homes. And to address your first question, how do we get to this point? Well, you know how we got to this point. I bet that was just a question baiting me, right? A rhetorical question. Well, how we got here? I'll tell you, back in 2002, I was a sponsor of a home ownership bill, and there were all those predatory lending practices, and we had these mortgage companies coming into cities primarily, going after people, primarily minorities, primarily seniors, trying to suck them into either refinancing their home, in some cases with seniors, and piling all these fees on it, making it impossible for them to pay their monthly their monthly charges, forcing them into foreclosure. And then with other individuals, giving them mortgages without even checking to see if they could afford it, without even asking them how much their wages were. And so this was the whole foreclosure crisis was brought on by abuses in the banking system and the home loan mortgage system. And so there have been some reforms put into place, but I'm not confident that it can't happen again. Yes, ma'am, in the front. Yes.
First thing is, I want to thank you very much for coming into our neighborhood. The governor, the present governor, always when he has his town hall, it's always in the white areas. I've never seen him come to a black area at all. One of the things, I'm an old public health nurse, and I resent the fact that he took away the lead poisoning money, because Newark is an old town. There's still a lot of old buildings here full of lead and that kind of stuff, and I really resent it highly.
I do too, and it really affects our children so much.
But if you notice my sign, do you see it on my hat?
Christie Craft.
I am so disgusted with those Democrats that have sold out. I am disgusted with them. From the ones in our area for which I would not vote for ever again.
Did you see the Star Ledger today?
I saw it.
You know?
Even Simpson was one of them.
Yeah.
And I mean, I am very disgusted because, you see, this man collects a pension and a salary. I'm from the teachers thing because I was a nurse and in the union.
Yes, Jody.
I can't work to make a whole lot of money because they'll cut my pension if I do. How come he can do that? You understand?
I do understand, and I have to tell you, thank you so much, because she's talking about Joe D. Yeah, I mean, if you go online on page 2 of the Star Ledger today, there's a big article because Joe D. endorsed Chris Christie, and I was asked about it, and I said, you know what? Just so you know, I went on record telling Joe D. I didn't want his support, and I wasn't seeking his endorsement.
Just one more thing. Christie took away my COLA. I have retired. I will never get a cost of living raise. We won't get it for 30 years. I'm not going to be here 30 years later.
Well, you raised so many issues.
I want to cut away his money.
2 more things I'll answer real quick, can I? The 2 issues that you raised about the lead poisoning, and I worked closely with Senator Ron Rice on this, and I'm still working with him closely because this governor has cut funding. He limited it so they wouldn't go out and test except where the child had to be very young, under the age of 5, I think, and otherwise they weren't going to go out and test. Yes. Or if there was already established a case of lead poisoning. Now, you know, you're a nurse. That impact on that child is devastating. It has neurological impacts. It can make them hyperactive. It definitely impedes their learning ability. Right. His priorities are all out of whack, this governor. He took that money away and used it for another purpose. And then last but certainly not least, you addressed the issue that, I'm sorry, what was your name? Tell me.
My name is Phil.
Mildred?
No, Elsie Pilgrim.
Oh, Elsie, sorry. Elsie raised was the issue of COLAs, the cost of living adjustment. And I am who I am, and I can tell you that on my record, just check my record, I stand up for what I believe in. It may not always be politically expedient, and one case in point was on the issue of pension and benefit reform. As a majority leader, I decided I had to draw a line in the sand. I was the number 2 person in the Senate, and I stood out in the front of the State House, and I said, I'll get to you next. I'm sorry. I stood out in the front of the State House and I said, no, we cannot eliminate collective bargaining. We can't do this. And I lost my majority leader position. But you know what? It wasn't even a hard call. I'd do it again. Because you have to stand for something. In the back, sir. That's gentleman in the back. Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I second the young lady's condition that basically you showed up for us. But I stand for 2 reasons. Basically, I'm a 52-year-old gentleman. I used to be.
You are not 52. Oh,
Yeah,
my God.
Well, actually, I'm not. I just turned 53. But in light of the fact, I'm here because of the mere fact that I was a convicted criminal or labeled a convicted felon 20 years ago.
Oh, God.
So I got a red flag on that stands behind me that says, hey, listen, you can't get a job in an area where I would like to go, the medical field, however, or anything that I would like to do. Secondly, in the event that I wanted to go and reside in the area that's being conducive to where I want to live, I can't do that either. And I guess my question is, with all the money that's actually coming through the government with regard to your Second Chance Act and things of that nature, my governor or our governor, Christie, basically does not do anything for African American black man who actually has a felony conviction that says, hey, listen, what would I like to do? Now, I don't want a minimum wage job, but that's what I'm forced to do. Now, I'm asking you on behalf of the government, what would your stance be on something like that with regard to me? And then secondly, would you believe that I actually got out of the military in 1979? And that was out of the respect of a young gentleman who came back from one of the wars who called me a nigger. And then from that standpoint, I felt I was protected by the U.S. government from something like that. We wound up in an altercation. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because of the mere fact that I think I got blacklisted and things of that nature with regard to that. So there's 2 general questions that I would love to have answered with regard to your new position.
With respect to criminal convictions on your record, I'm very much in favor of reentry programs, but I will say this to you. The best reentry program is a job. And I know you can't get a job because what I support, there's a legislation called Ban the Box, so that you don't have to check that off. And so I think that will be a monumental difference in your life. And as governor, I make it a priority to be use the full weight of my office behind it to ensure the legislature passes that, and I will sign it when it hits my desk. Anybody on this side? Yes.
Where are your campaign headquarters in this area? Because
Bloomfield.
We just opened one in Bloomfield. Yeah, well, I'd love to have one in Newark. I'd love to have one in Jersey City. But the one thing about not being the boss's candidate, which I'm not, I'm independent, and I think that that's just the way it is. Nobody's going to tell me how to vote. I'm going to vote for one reason and one reason alone. It's best for the people. But there are certain benefactors that fund gubernatorial campaigns that won't be there for this campaign because I'm not a tool of the bosses. And so please don't be offended if we're not here. It's not only because if you give me it free, we'll do it. Okay. So we're trying.
where in Bloomfield are you located? Because Bloomfield is it
Orchard Street.
Orchard Street. Yeah. Yeah, Orchard Street. We actually, would you know the address? She's my
39.
39. You are good. Councilwoman, how are you? Mildred, this woman, Mildred Crump, is an amazing, amazing woman. Anyone else on this side? And then, yes, Lester. I have to come and eat at your place. I've never been there. Oh, I thought you said Lester. Oh, okay.
One thing
My hearing's going. It is.
Every politician that runs in New Jersey, the first thing they talk about taxes. They want to lower your taxes, and everybody knows you really can't lower the taxes because after the you get your accountants in there and your lawyers in there, you're not going to get something's going to come up. But your gas go up and down every day or monthly or whatever it is. And if a politician say we're going to do a 10% gas increase to pay the taxes, it's like kryptonite. Why can't somebody come out and say, listen, we're going to use a 10% gas tax to solve a lot of our problems? It goes up and down. I mean, you got a war now, it goes up. It goes down.
Right.
It's manipulated. So why a 10% gas tax would eliminate a lot of those things? Because the money that they get from Atlantic City, you get your accountants in there, they go with a pen. I'd rather a guy attack me with a gun than with a pen. What? Okay.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't think I agree with that one. In terms of the gas tax, it's two issues. Actually, the gas tax is influenced by by the markets, and so I'm not an expert in that, but we can, to your point, impose an increase. We tax it in New Jersey as well. See, I just don't think that now is the time to impose any more burdens on the people of New Jersey. What I think we should do, when you talk about taxes, well, this governor said he passed this budget with no increase in taxes. Well, I don't know what taxes. Maybe he's talking about the tax on millionaires that he vetoed. But I can tell you this, fares and bus fares went up. Fares on buses and trains went up 25% and service was cut. That's a tax on the middle class and the working poor. That increases the cost of living. He increased property taxes by slashing property tax rebates when he came into office. He said he wouldn't do that. First thing he did, slashed it. Property taxes went through the roof. I believe that that's one of the major differences between this governor and myself. You see, I believe that millionaires should pay their fair share. I think that they should. And I think that he should have signed the bill that would have helped the most onerous and egregious tax because doesn't reflect your ability to pay, and that's the property tax.
Could you take this lady's question?
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Thank you. I want to ask 3 quick questions. Job creation / minimum wage, what would be your policy? I have a couple more. And what kind of impact can you have on the prison industrial complex?
On the prison?
Industrial complex.
Okay.
And the other question is now, you said you're going to have a tough time in the House because you don't have a lot of support. How would you get your policies passed?
Oh, I didn't say that. I didn't say I didn't have support. I said I don't have the support of the bosses. But, oh no, I have the support of the people. In fact, I'm glad you asked that question because when I'm asked that question, I say, the people are going to decide this election. The people I meet in the nail salons, at the bus stops, and when I talk to them about my vision for the economy, and I will get to that, they understand that this governor and this one person and one person alone is responsible for having 400,000 people out of work, for having poverty increase every year he's been in office, and for the middle class shrinking. It resonates with people. When people in New Jersey were smart, we're savvy. People are going to go into those voting booths and they're going to vote their pocketbook. And when we communicate our message, which is what we're doing, then they will make the right decision. But with respect to minimum wage, well, I think we should really have a living wage. A minimum wage. Come on. We live in one of the highest cost of living states in the nation, and this governor wouldn't even dignify the people with an increase in the minimum wage, and still people what does it amount to? 40-hour work week. It's a little under $15,000. People have to live on food stamps still and public assistance. It's not a living wage. So I would sign a minimum wage increase, tying it to a cost of living, but with respect to the economy, and that's the key for everything in terms of paying funding for whatever programs that we need. And it's a matter of priorities, but it's also a matter of building our economy. This governor's singular plan, the only thing he did to try and it was rooted in Mitt Romney, supply side economics, trickle down, where if you gave tax credits to the multi-million-dollar corporations that they might decide to invest in the economy and create jobs. And we know that doesn't work, right? And so I have a comprehensive economic plan that would work from building up the middle class by investing in our workers of today and tomorrow, investing in our children, make sure that our children get the education they need to be competitive in the global marketplace. And I go on buonoforgovernor.com. I have my whole plan out there. And also for older people who need their skills, all these technical jobs are there's no such thing as the high-paid, low-skilled job anymore. It's becoming a thing of the past. The new manufacturing jobs require a new set of skills. And so we need to have people be able to be retrained in an affordable way. We need to use our vocational schools, our county colleges to do that. This governor has cut funding for our county colleges, and they've had to serve more students. Talk about the urban areas. This governor has given $2.1 billion in tax credits to large corporations, none to small businesses, which many of whom are minority and women owned. I would redirect those tax credits to small businesses, many minority and women. Those are the businesses that they represent 95% of our businesses in New Jersey, and they're getting no help. Now, I talk to business owners all the time, and they tell me one of their major problems is access to capital. They traditionally in certain areas banks don't like to give loans out as easily. Right. So I have a plan that would have a public-private partnership to direct some of the loans into, there's a federal program, it's called the New Markets Program, and it combines public and private funds and directs those tax credits into urban areas, which traditionally have a tougher time getting capital. I want to implement that and have it on the state level. And, infrastructure, that, we can get jobs from infrastructure. We need jobs. This governor, he pulled the plug on the ARC tunnel. We needed that tunnel into the city. Honestly, I still lose sleep over that. I still do. New Jersey, you know why people come to New Jersey to locate here? Not because of the tax credits. Bausch and Lomb came here. I just read an article. They took the tax credits, but you know what? They were honest. They said they stayed here. Why? Because of the skilled workforce and because of our location. Now, we live, we're right near the ports, right near New York. Yeah. But if we don't have a good infrastructure, our infrastructure is crumbling. Our bridges and our roads, and this governor walked away from his promise to fund that. I have a plan to fund it. Obama last year in his State of the Union mentioned something called a public-private infrastructure bank, which we can use on the state level. I don't want to go into the details, but we need to grow our economy. We also need to draw down more federal dollars. I wouldn't have walked away from the $3 billion that this governor did. We should have had that ARC tunnel. It would not have just created construction jobs, but 40,000 permanent jobs. 40,000, yes.
As VP of Morris County now, the VP of the State Board of now, Wynn in NACP, my compatriots now, we're at the State House a lot. And I don't mean this as a joke. Every time we go past that drum bucket, he's not living there. I have thought, why can't we make it a homeless shelter? I worked for Sandy Ramos up in West Milford. She started the first battered women's shelter in North America. 1 in 13 people in New Jersey is homeless, and that means especially with children. What will you do about it? Because I really mean this. It's shameful.
Well, I hate to get back to the economy, but it's all about being able to have jobs and freedom. Economic freedom is through jobs, and we need to focus on the working poor, the middle class, and make sure that they have the skills, the training to be able to have jobs to support their families.
Are you going to live there?
Probably not.
Then make it a homeless shelter. I mean, the state is taking care of it. It's got the electricity, the heat, and all those rooms.
I think it's a historic. If it has a historic significance, I don't know.
It's just sitting there going to waste.
Yeah. I think we have to address the homeless
Terrible.
issue, but I don't know about drum thwack, and I don't know if that would be the right place. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
I read about you before I came. Wow.
And you still can?
A little intimidating.
Let's give State Senator Buono a big hand for coming today. She didn't have to. We have some other people we want to hear from tonight with regard to the governor's election.